So Abhijit, you are from Darjeeling, West Bengal,
Yes, sir.
and your optional are Anthropology.
Yes, sir.
You have done your bachelor in Electrical and Electronics Engineering.
Yes, sir.
You worked for some time as a software engineer in Bengaluru. Uh, you are fond of writing, reflecting poems
Yes, sir.
and recreational cycling. So right now you are not working anywhere.
No, sir.
No. Okay. And you are also done mentoring. You are fond of mentoring also. Okay. So Abhijit, some time back, a few days back, there was a news item where the High Court of a state said that the protection of the High Court should be entrusted to the paramilitary forces instead of the local police. What does it reflect? Is it the right thing? Uh, is it reflective of the fact that they have lost confidence in the local police? And will it not have a recoil effect in other high courts also? What's your view?
Yes, sir. It can be argued that the reason why this was stated was that the local police, which is controlled by the state, the respective state, may have an influence. The state may have an influence in the affairs of the High Court. That could have been one of the reasons why this was said. I also think that yes, could have had a reflective, pervasive effect on other high courts, sir.
But it's a very dangerous trend because you see, the local police is ultimately there to guard all important places and installations, barring a few like CISF does that for the airports, etc. But otherwise, if one start losing faith in the local police, then it will become very difficult because everyone will start asking for that. So you see this emerging trend uh, as a reflection, and you feel that there is nothing wrong in high courts asking for this.
It's definitely not desirable, sir, because at the end of the day, local police or outside police, it should not matter. It is the mandate to protect a particular institution that should be what is important. It should not matter whether which police is doing it.
Okay, can you give me some examples of judicial activism, judicial overreach, and judicial adventurism?
Adventurism,
Yeah.
right? Judicial activism, I would say the Vishaka guidelines given by the Supreme Court in the case of there was a lack of guidelines in that matter. Judicial restraint was the second thing.
Overreach.
Overreach. So overreach, I am unable to recall at this moment. Adventurism, also, sir, I'm unable to recall. Sir.
Anything related to COVID? Some directions which were given by the high courts and the local courts also.
So related to the Delhi, the oxygen scarcity.
So was it not an adventurism?
So I would not go so far as to say that it was adventurism because there was need for some guidance on of some sort. But at the end of the day, the fact remains that it's an executive area where the court intervened. But on balance, I would say that it was necessary. So because it did streamline some processes, especially getting oxygen from deficient areas to the from surplus areas to the deficient regions.
No, but I think the order was that the cylinder should be allocated amongst the judicial officers.
Among the sorry, sir,
Judicial officers.
So that I'm not aware, sir. I'm not aware.
Okay. What is a writ?
Writ.
Yeah.
So it's a type of petition. So there are various types of writ petitions.
Under which article is it?
So Article 32, sir.
And
even the and Article 226 for the High Court, sir.
So how many types of writs are there?
So habeas corpus.
Okay.
Then quo warranto. Certiorari.
Okay.
So that's all I can recall at the moment, sir.
There is a word which appears at a number of places in Constitution that is called prohibition. Where does it appear in Constitution? At least two places it appears.
So I think in one place is to prevent or prohibit children under the age of 14. So I cannot recall the second
Okay.
case.
Okay, let's change it.
Yes.
You know what happened, that recently there was a judgment of the High Court of a southern state which talked about a term called essential practice test.
Yes.
What was that?
So it was related to the hijab controversy,
Okay.
and it is the Karnataka High Court in question,
Okay.
which said that hijab is not an essential part of the Islam religion.
Mhm.
So interestingly enough, the Kerala High Court a few
Yeah.
years back
Mhm.
said something which was opposite, that hijab in fact was a part of the essential practice for Islam.
Okay, now happiness index. Where does India stand, and which is the happiest country in the world, and which is the most unhappy country in the world, and
So
how is it measured?
I'm unable to answer any part of that question, sir. I'm unable to recall.
Ashok ji.
You are, wanting to enter civil service, the IAS. Firstly, tell me, why have you not opted police services?
So
there is
any of the technical services I would not qualify because I have flat seats.
Oh, okay. Now, what is the role of district collector? What do you understand as the role of collector?
So primarily it is the revenue functions of the district. He is also in charge of coordination between various departments in the district. He is in charge of the disaster management and Panchayati Raj. And also, sir, he has some power. He does not have powers under the magisterial. The magisterial powers are not under the district collector. That's what I can recall. That's how he's different from the district magistrate.
Yeah, generally, district magistrate and district collector is the role assigned to the same person generally.
Right.
So he also acts as a magistrate, and there is another role as magistrate.
Okay.
But now you said he is in charge of the revenue functions. What are these revenue functions?
So, in my limited knowledge, he is responsible for collection of taxes from the region.
Which type of taxes and from which area?
Sir, I think the local body taxes, which are funneled from the panchayats and the municipalities, they are overseen by the district magistrate, district collector. But sir, this is my limited knowledge. I do not have much knowledge.
I think you need to check later.
Yes, sir.
And what is the role of collector during elections?
So the moment election schedule is released, the collector or the district magistrate, he comes under the election commission. So he is the chief electoral officer of the district. There are various returning officers who directly report to him, and he himself comes under the election commission. So he is responsible for smooth organization and the days leading up to the MCC days, and leading up to the results. He is completely responsible for law and order as well as free and fair elections in the district.
Okay, now these days we are, witnessing a lot of power shortage, power crisis, and there are reports that discoms generally in all the states, they are in very poor financial state. One analysis said that their dues of discoms to the gencos, generation companies, has reached about 1 lakh crore rupees from a very small amount about say 8 to 10 years ago. And this is the condition. Now, why is this happening, and what is being done to solve this crisis, financial crisis?
So the discoms are the weakest link in the entire supply chain of electricity in our country. The primary reason why they are in a bad shape is because the long-term power purchase agreement that is signed between the discoms and the generating company, They are, sir, of very high, very long tenure. But these days we are having renewable energy which is coming into our foray. So there is need for a mechanism to renegotiate those PPAs. That is not being done at a regular time. That is one of the reasons why these discoms are having a bad financial health, sir. And sir, the second part of your question regarding what is being done, the government did try the Uday scheme. They brought out Uday bonds. So it has had limited success. Initially, the dues reduced, but now it is growing primarily because the AT&C losses that we say is very high in our country, and only seeing this from a financial perspective is not the whole picture, because we need smart metering and reduction of these losses, which are infrastructural issues per se. So instead of doing that, I mean, until and unless we do that, we will not be able to solve this
Is
problem.
there any recent step that the government of India has taken in this regard
Specifically to the discoms, sir?
for the discoms?
Sir, I remember the Electricity Amendment Act, where the discoms, where more market-oriented approach, the consumers will be able to choose the discom from which supply comes. That has been proposed.
Mm, they have given a certain amount of money for discoms to install smart meters, as you said, and to reduce TNC losses,
So I'm
to
not
bring
aware.
down losses. Thank you.
Abhijit. Abhijit means what in Bangla?
In Bangla, sir, I'm not sure, but basically what my parents named me, they had two reasons for it. One is Abhijit means being victorious, and secondly,
Say it again.
being victorious, sir.
Being victorious.
Yes, sir.
Mhm.
And the second is Abhijit is a Sanskrit name for the star Vega, which around 10,000 years ago was the pole star. So basically, the star around which the Earth revolves was what my parents had in mind when they named me Abhijit.
Which interpretation you like more?
Uh, uh, Being victorious, I would say, sir.
And Abhi means right now.
Abhi means right now.
Huh? So be victorious right now. That is what we all wish you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. In your optional paper, you said Bengali.
Yes, sir. The language paper.
It is Bengali or it is Bangla?
Sir, it is
Hey, what do you call your language?
Bangla.
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 So why you written Bengali here?
Oh, sir, this is from a drop down, sir.
Okay.
It has only Bengali.
There's no option.
No, sir.
Why don't you correct it? You are an engineer. Tell the UPSC to. No?
Right, sir.
It should be done. It's wrongly, fed into the system. Yeah?
That's a thing. I keep it in mind.
Innovation comes from where?
From implementation of a creative idea. That
Mhm.
basically it comes from the brain. A creative idea which is implemented in the right way to solve a problem is innovation.
And what is the difference between innovation and invention?
So invention is something which does not exist. It is found. But that's invention. Innovation is again a problem solved using a creative process.
No, I'm not clear. Are you clear about it? What you are telling me?
Now that I think, I'm not very clear.
Not very clear.
No, sir.
You better be clear, because innovation is a very in thing today. Wherever you go, you are supposed to be innovating and implementing. Yeah, that you said rightly, that it has to be implemented. But in invention, I don't think the implication is uh, implementing is included in that. But do have a look at that. Tell me, anthropology, does it hold any explanation as to why humans need sleep?
So anthropology, part of the anthropological study is related to evolution also. So we've had large brains that has evolved over time. We are not very sure why it evolved, but we definitely know that since we need large brains, we need a lot of time to sleep to give rest to our brains. and we are the only species in the earth who take around 30% of the sleep time energy only to our brain. So sleep is one of the ways to give rest to our brain. That would be my
No, but
understanding.
we sleep in a very uniform, disciplined manner.
Right.
You know, a minimum 6 hours sleep or 8 hours sleep, you know, that we've been trained to, we've been told to. So I'm not sure whether it's a part of natural evolution or it is a habit inculcated by our parents and, you know, forefathers.
So anthropologically speaking, I would say that it's an impact of the circadian rhythm, which we call the body clock,
Good.
which requires a certain amount of sleep, and the cultural effects act on it. And because, like you said, it's our parents and grandparents who told us that we should sleep for this much amount of time, it has come into that specific pattern of 8 hours or 7 hours.
But my understanding says, I mean, much against what you have explained, that our ancestors didn't sleep much. And they, number one, they didn't sleep much. Number two, they slept very irregularly. And they slept almost 4 or 5 times during 24 hours. So, what do you say to that?
One of the reasons could be our ancestors were hunter gatherers. They required a large amount of physical effort, and the physical effort came at various times of the day based on the sun and everything.
Whenever they got time, they slept.
I would think so, sir. But I
So
don't
don't
have
you think it's a good way of living a healthy life, work, and then if you feel like sleep, then wake up and then start work.
It can be a good way, sir, but I mean, I don't know if the
Okay,
society would
there is
allow it.
there is a campaign building up around the world that there should be 4 days, 4 working days in a
Yes, sir.
week,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Who's leading this?
Mm, Sir, I'm not aware of the company or organization.
No country, neither company nor organization. A country
Sir, I'm unable to.
started with a country, but now a lot of countries are on the
I'm unable to.
bandwagon, and I'm sure India would jump in also. You recommend 4 days a week kind of schedule?
So interestingly enough, in the company that I worked, this thing was done for a temporary period.
Would you recommend it for
I would-
India?
For India, sir, I'm not sure, but for the service sector,
For West Bengal?
no, sir, I would probably not recommend. But sir, it depends on the sector that we're talking about.
Uh-huh.
For the service sector,
Tell me, what is the objective behind this?
the objective behind this is for a greater work-life balance. That's number one.
Hmm.
The second thing is the assumption that if people work 4 days rather than 5 days, then they would spend the time more effectively. That's the assumption.
You are not hitting the nail. None of the two.
Right.
Okay, none of the two. By quickly, last minute, I want to go up to your interests and hobbies. Something very interesting. You seem to have designed Navigator shoes. That was totally your creation, innovation,
Not only mine, sir. There
huh?
were
A team.
2 other people.
Achha.
It's a
More or less the same
yes, sir.
thing. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And what is Navigator shoes?
So, sir, it's a smart shoe which helps you navigate in the sense that there are vibrating motors in the sole of the shoe. So, let's say I have to go from here to CP. So, what I normally do today is I give the link in the Google Maps, and the Google Maps, either through the screen or through voice, it tells me where to go. Now, instead of doing that, what I do is there is a left shoe and the right shoe. So, vibrations in either the left or the right shoe will tell me which direction to go as I keep walking or as I keep driving. That is the
So
basic.
basic feature is GPS fixed into it.
Not in the shoe, sir. It is connected from the shoe to the phone using Bluetooth.
So it guides you.
It guides us. Yes, sir.
Oh, I see. And you said, as you said, it is more helpful too.
So there were 2 other features of it. One was the alert system for women's safety, and the third one was navigation for the visually challenged people.
There must have been a lot of takers for this. Has any company approached you?
So interestingly enough, we later found that there is a company called Lachel in US.
They are doing it already.
They are doing only the first part. already.
So that was your inspiration.
No, we didn't know about it, sir, before we started.
Okay.
Only later we
Very
found out.
small question last. Recreational cycling. What is recreational cycling?
So it's cycling done primarily for amusement and fun rather than for any particular.
Explain it, please.
So, for example, I started with utility cycling, where I used to go from my home to my office. But recreational cycling is something which I picked up after I left office and came in Siliguri. I did it for a hobby purpose and only for amusement. Like I used to go out with my friends and roam around in the locality or a little far away. That
Okay,
is
what is a recumbent cycle?
recumbent cycle. Sir. I'm not aware.
Ye kya baat? Anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Abhijit, you have appeared at before us earlier also.
Yes, sir.
I think
Online.
Yeah, online.
You are the chairman. Sir.
Yeah, I know. Okay. Yeah, that's right.
Abhijit, you live very close to Siliguri corridor. You live in corridor also is near your home.
Yes, you can. Say.
Okay. And you worked for 4 years in some company in
Yeah.
Bangalore.
Yes.
What was the nature of job you did there?
So I was what you call a firmware engineer. So
Software engineer.
software engineer is the official title that is there, but it's actually firmware, which is software for microcontrollers. Yes, sir.
You found it interesting?
Definitely very interesting.
Okay. Siliguri corridor is a very sensitive, strategically very sensitive
Yes, sir.
area,
Yes, sir.
and it looks that China is a permanent threat to this chicken snack. What steps government of India is taking to protect the corridor?
So from a military perspective, there is the Air Force base and the military base in Bagdogra, which is in the chicken snake area. There is also an additional Air Force base in Purnia in Bihar, which is near to the chicken snake area for quick deployment in case of any vulnerability. That's from a military perspective. Sir, India is also trying to find alternate routes in case the chicken snake area comes under attack. This is part of the larger Look East, Act East policy. For example, the Kaladan multimodal project that we are doing. And also, sir, there is talks, though I'm not very clear of the details, between Bangladesh, a little south of the chicken snake corridor, there are certain roads. So India can connect through Bangladesh those roads to the northeast region. These are the 3 steps. Sir.
In 2016 or 2017, there was a Doklam crisis, and China carried out a lot of construction work around that area. So, and it remained like this for pretty long time. It continued for 2 years. This Doklam crisis.
So the immediate crisis was averted or de-escalated in I think a few months, but the constructions remained, and I think it's only last year that constructions have recently reduced.
Okay.
But I'm not sure of the timeline exactly. So.
Okay. China is always ready to break the chicken net. Huh? Okay, Bhutan also is very close by. Bhutan and India have got a treaty of friendship or whatever you call it.
Yes,
that was signed in 1949. India promised that we will protect you. Defense is in our hand. We will protect you, and your external affairs also we will take care. Huh? But how is it that 2 years back Bhutan entered into a treaty or pact with China without informing even India, as was expected in terms of the agreement?
So, if I recall correctly, I think in 2010 or 2011, we had an understanding with Bhutan that they would move towards a more independent foreign policy. And we, as part of that agreement, we also helped bring in democracy from monarchy in Bhutan, sir. Sir, I think what you're referring to, what they did independently with China, is part of that process, sir, because they are trying to portray themselves as an independent foreign
Can they
policy.
take care of themselves without India's help?
Sir, ideally speaking, going forward, we should have we should have a process or an environment where each country can take care of themselves. But as of today, I think it is still in a way dependent on India, sir. We protected them in Doklam issue also.
Okay. You have opted for anthropology as your optional. You know something about national tribal policy?
So I'm not able to recall the exact points of it, sir. But
You don't know?
not able to recall the points. Sir. I know that there was a policy.
Bring scheduled tribes into the mainstream,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I mean the general.
protecting their culture and all that. No?
Yes, sir.
You know something about Salwa Judam?
Yes, sir.
Who was Salwa Judam? Was it a person or a?
So
Who
it
was he?
was, I would say, a defense mechanism given by the government, where in Chhattisgarh, where the tribal people would be trained, tribal and locals would be trained in defense and ammunition usage, and they would fight against the Naxals, the left wing extremists.
Hmm.
It did not go as planned, because what basically eventually happened was that there was a lot of backlash against the local people, because there was infighting and a lot of bloodshed, unnecessary bloodshed based on that. And the Supreme Court has intervened and said that Salwajism is something that should be taken back.
So, acha, that's right. Huh? Is tribal census possible?
As of today, there are certain roadblocks I see, sir.
Hmm.
For example, even Orao tribe,
Hmm.
they are not, they are scheduled tribes in some states, not scheduled tribes in some other states. As long as the first thing we should do is harmonize this process. Even there are some particularly vulnerable tribal groups who are not given ST status, sir. So the first thing that we should do is that, and then we can move towards a tribal census, sir. Otherwise, we would miss out a lot of tribals.
So Abhijit will take you back to the waiting room for a while, and we'll bring you back again for feedback. Okay?
Thank you, sir.
Just wait for a while. Have a seat, Abhijit.
Thank you, sir.
So, Abhijit, when is your interview fixed?
So 11th.
11th. So you still have about 10 days or so. 11. This is the first time you'll be appearing at the interview. Okay. So your own assessment about the mock which you underwent just now.
So it was good, but there were some questions that I could have answered better.
So Abhijit, there is no hesitation in saying that you are very good. And definitely you have the potential of making it very good marks in the interview. And just a few areas where we think that it will help you out. We will just by way of suggestion only. First of all, let me talk to you about your strengths which you possess. One is that you have a very clear and logical expression, so and also exposition. Your powers of assimilation is good. You are thinking and then come out with the answer. You also could see both the sides. So if there was a which had two sides to it, so you were able to see both the pros and cons. You were mentally alert, and you were taking time to come out with answers. So waiting, which again is a very good thing, rather than jumping off to the answer. Your communication skills are excellent. Your voice is absolutely fine. Your delivery is good. Your sentences are good. The words are good, proper words. They are not pedestrian. They are good words. And one could see that you have got modulation, intonation in your voice, which is necessary to show the energy and to show the facial expressions also. You have a clarity of thought also in most of the cases, and you are very confident. So overall, I think your skills are absolutely fine. Coming to now knowledge, and so knowledge, I will just they are obvious, but in any case, let me tell you that once we talk about you are hailing from Siliguri, Darjeeling, so everything and anything about Darjeeling, you will have to prepare. So don't be complacent in that regard. and take out the gazetteer, district gazetteer of Darjeeling, and see uh, the various facts and figures about Darjeeling.
It's available online, sir.
It should be available online also. The district gazetteer is published by the revenue department of the state, and it should be available there. Believe in that because that is authentic rather than anything else. But if you don't get it, then get some suitable book on that. So Darjeeling, the geography, the area, the crops, the tea plantations, Kalimpong, the fruits, the flowers of Kalimpong. I'm sure you must have been there.
Kalimpong.
Yeah. Then of course the kind of agricultural crops, the irrigation facilities, and then the narrow gauge rail which is there, one of the UNESCO heritage sites, I think, and then its proximity to China, and then there are many tourist spots in Darjeeling. Everything you should know. Then what are the pains of Darjeeling? So, and Bodoland and all the history and all those things. So anything about Darjeeling, and then West Bengal. Now West Bengal, many questions can come. For a simple question, sometimes people ask, why is it that in West Bengal the lights which are fixed onto the bridges and onto the roads, they are blue and white? Are you aware about that? Why?
Politically.
It is politically,
Ideological.
ideologically.
Should
But-
I say that?
Yeah,
It's-
if they ask you this question,
That's
then
the
naturally
colour
you
of
can't
the
say, yeah,
leading party.
it's the color of the leading party. In fact, the sari which is worn by the chief minister. So therefore, she made it, in all the buildings, colors, etc. And then, of course, West Bengal, the famous incident of the chief secretary, and the prime minister, and which led to the amendment of the All India Service Rules. Now, this may definitely figure because it has affected the entire All India Service Rules, which have been changed. Now the central government has the final say in getting an officer. So, but when the question is asked, you must give pros and cons. The central deputation reserve was not getting filled, and therefore government of India thought it. So there are pros. Cons is now if a person doesn't want to go to the government of India or the state government is against it, even then he will be forced to go there. So this thing, and then of course anything about West Bengal also, that the famous incident which took place about Tata. They wanted to come there, and Mamata Banerjee did not. The agitation was long, land was not acquired, and then everything connected with West Bengal as such, coming to the same thing, that agriculture crops, the irrigation potential, the tradition, the clothing, the food habits, and everything. So that you should master, West Bengal and Darjeeling. And then coming to some other areas, for example, the electrical and electronics engineering. And I'm sure you would be preparing very well on that aspect also. But just to have an understanding about some of the very elementary concepts, which normally people tend to forget, I would strongly recommend there is one book by Hindu book. It's brought out by the paper Hindu. It is on facts about amazing facts about the different things connected with science. So that you can find out. It's a very nice book which will talk a lot about electrical and electronics engineering. Some of the facts which are not known to people. Amazing facts by Hindu and so on. And then electrical and electronics lot will be asked. For example, they may ask even about 5G technology. They may ask about difference between electrical and electronics. What is the difference between the two? And then certain things connected with the semiconductor, the shortage of semiconductor. The government of India has brought about a semiconductor policy also. That also you should know. And then the power shortage, the question was already asked, why the power shortage took place, and what measures can you suggest to ensure that we do not face such shortage. Now there can be many, and probably the lifestyle of the people has to change. Now multi-rise building, top buildings are there having a lot of glass, which requires a lot of heat is generated because of the the effect, because the heat goes inside. So a lot of air conditioning is required. So they may ask that why this is happening. It becoming a new trend. One was, of course, that the climatic condition changed 15 days in advance. The heat
Right.
wave came. So that was one reason. Second is also that the type of buildings is also, we have a lot of glass in the buildings. That also is there. And so many reasons. You must know that particular reason. Which are the most important companies which manufacture electric equipment in the world? So that you should aim. I think A, B, and B is there, and Siemens would be there, and so many. And then they can ask you about what is the fundamental, when our country got independence. So in terms of infrastructure building, what are the power plants which were built? So Bhakra, Nangal, and the power generation and so on. The basic infrastructure which was built, Hirakud, the dam, and so many. Then software engineer, you must know about the company where you were working, the turnover, the profitability, the number of employees, what it was doing, and so on. Then question about why you joined civil service. The question was also asked about role of district collector. So why civil service? That is a question which will definitely be asked. So I think I had told you
Yes,
last
I
time,
know.
so you will be remembering that. So then the discoms, what steps have been taken? You talked about Uday also, and then some other things which were done recently. One more thing which I would like to ask you is that from the northeastern region, one of the persons got Bharat Ratna recently. Are you aware about that?
Yes, sir, he was a singer
Yeah,
from
what-
Assam.
Yeah, what was the name?
Gopinath Bhattacharya.
No. Bhupen Hazarika.
Bhupen Hazarika.
Yeah. So they can ask you, because lot many steps have been taken by the central government to bring northeast into the fold of this. And then there will be problem about northeast, for example, Arunachal Pradesh, Dalai Lama, and China, and things. So typical problems. What are the 7 sister states? You see, so such things will be there. I asked you many questions on the judicial activism, etc. So that, of course, you will be knowing. Then the role of the district collector, you said that the collector does not have the magisterial power. So normally the collector and the district magistrate, they are one and the same thing. Just like district judge and the session judge are one and the same thing. Same person is allocated both the duties. So collector, in his capacity as district magistrate, enjoys many powers under the criminal procedure code. That you should know. The curfew which was imposed under the during the COVID was also done under the criminal procedure code, section 144.
Yes,
So you should read at least 2-3 sections: 144, 145, 129, 133, and 107. Then you should also understand the public policies which are there. It's typically for women empowerment, for children, for senior citizens. Read through the public policies and also the acts in support of them.
Right.
So domestic violence act and so on. Then Panchayati Raj institutions, you must read through them. The role of Panchayat, role of Panchayat Samiti, and role of Zilla Parishad. And a typical question may come is, if you visit a village, who are the functionaries you will find in that village? For example, you will find a teacher, you will find a Asha worker, you will find a Ram Sachiv, you will find a Patwari. So you should know how the village works, how the block works, and how the district Zilla Parishad works. And then urban local bodies. What are the different sources of income of Panchayat and urban local bodies like municipality and municipal corporation and so on. Then read the constitution article by article, so that you are aware about the polity, the president, the fundamental right, the vice president, the fundamental duties, the directive principal state policy, and the preamble. So this is the overall thing. And then, of course, on the foreign policy things is IFS is your second preference. So not many questions will be asked on foreign policy also. So how does the geography of a country affect the history of that country, and vice versa? What is the advantage of Pakistan in its geographical location? What is the position? Why this Sri Lanka has got into a debt trap? And then the situation in political situation in Pakistan, and also the China. Why China has progressed much more than India? What needs to be done in this country? You should also mention some of the policies of the government of India, like stand up and start up and Atmanirbhar. Then Russia, Ukraine, I don't have to tell you to prepare on that. Supply chain disruption and consequent Atmanirbhar. And a typical question may also come. We are moving towards a de-dollarization. So dollar is, suddenly we are thinking about other currencies also in the world. So de-dollarization, we are moving towards that. So this is generally the overall thing. If you have any questions, you can ask us.
No, so you comprehensively covered it.
So you are very good. You will do extremely well, and just go and spend the next about 10 days, 10 days, and you will definitely. So because as I said, communication skill, there is no problem. Only knowledge slightly more about the region to which you belong, about your subjects, about your optional, and current affairs. Read the current affair before you enter the room, even that day's current affairs, and also general knowledge about and the constitution and the politics.
One point, sir. Will you keep beard?
No, sir. I will
Will have a clean shave,
Yes, sir.
because in your photograph also.
Yes,
And second, you are wearing shoes without laces or with laces?
without laces.
With laces is, I think, normally
It will be better if
expected.
you have laces. That would be better.
It's expected.
But
Because
if
that
you
shows,
have, if you have to
you-
purchase
you-
new shoes for that,
It indicates the comfort level of the person who wears it.
otherwise,
Otherwise,
If
Don't
the
normally-
agenda is not already heavy, then I just want to add 2, 3 small points. Readings. Something on Tagore. I mean, refreshing on Tagore and the missing medal story. And on Satyajit Ray, Ray Babu. And why West Bengal? Why West Bengal?
Okay.
Why not Bengal? If Calcutta can be Kolkata, then West Bengal में West का क्या मतलब है? I mean, these are just and has West Bengal been always violent? Of late, there have been too many stories of violence. So that is a very important thought. And lastly, is theatre dying in West Bengal? I mean, it is a home of theatre. So is it dying? That's all. Thank you and all the very best.
Thank you, sir.
The board feels very confident that you are going to do very well. ये 10 दिन को ना बिल्कुल no rest,
जी सर, बिल्कुल.
sleep as little as your forefathers slept.
Yes, sir.
ठीक है?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you,
All
sir.
the best.
you will do very well.
Unacademy. Let's crack it.